There is a small machinery which constantly goes on expanding, the aim of which is to have the whole universe in it, and yet to retain itself. A kind of a self-contradiction. If you embrace the whole universe, what I call myself has got to be blotted out. It is dissolved. Therefore, according to some experience, the egoistic consciousness, first of all, as long as it remains egoism, it can never embrace the universe. If it embraces the universe, it ceases to be itself. It is annulled. If it is annulled, what happens? That also is a question which is not sufficiently analyzed and answered. There are some analogies given. A small idol made of salt, if it is put into the ocean, what happens to it? It is melted and the idol does not remain anymore at all. It is gone. Now, according to some, therefore, the individual, if it expands, it is melted away. But expands into what? And would that expansion, what is the nature of that expansion? That expansion is what is called the universe. And what is the nature of that expansion? And there is a fresh difficulty. This universe seems to be, if you examine properly, is expanding universe. And that is a difficulty. There is no expansion which has a limit. If universe is a kind of an infinite expansion, there is no limit in it. And the moment we try to conceive of it, we can't conceive because there is no such thing as a definite expansion. If it is definite, it's a boundary. So where is the limitless? Sri Aurobindo says the universe can be defined only as boundless finite. It's a contradictory word, boundless finite. Finite has a boundary, it can't be boundless. But our experience of the world is that of a boundless finite. There is a constant expansion. It goes on, and that is the meaning of universe. Can therefore ego be satisfied if it wants to expand and grasp everything? Therefore it is said that the egoistic consciousness can really be extinguished only if it can be identified with something that is beyond the universe. Now this is the theory of the Advaitin. According to Advaitin, the ego is dissolved not in the universe, in the cosmos, because even cosmos is an illusion. The individual is lost in a transcendental, which is not universal. It is pure essence. There is no universality. And the egoistic consciousness is ultimately dissolved. There are three theories of egoistic consciousness now, that what you already described so far. According to one, the individual is only a small cog in the whole. It can never become unified with the whole universe. Because if it is unified with the universe, it no more remains what it is. As long as it remains ego, it can never be unified with the universe. So according to this theory, the individual can expand and can hope to expand, can go on expanding but never aim at complete loss of it. This is one theory. That individual can expand and go on expanding, but ultimately must find its small cog, whatever machine it provides, however vast it becomes, it must remain what it, ultimately an egoistic consciousness. You can become even a Superman, the vastest egoistic consciousness, in which you don't become one with the universe. You are not annulled, but you can master the world. You can stand above the world. This was the theory of Nietzsche. According to him, an individual should constantly expand himself, become so powerful, so great, that it can dominate the whole world. And it says that the human being is destined to develop this. And every individual ultimately ought to do it. Those who cannot do it, because he admits that there are human beings who have no such ambition at all. They want to expand a little and remain satisfied with a little thing. So he says that for such individuals, you should give Christian morality, Christian ethics. For them, that is a good teaching, because Christian morality says, be thou meek, be thou humble, and accept your little small portion in the world, and always depend upon becoming very meek and humble. But there are other human beings for whom Christian morality should not be given. This Nietzsche himself very consciously gives this idea. It is not as if a secret doctrine. This is his doctrine that individual, if he really wants to fulfill himself, he must expand. And for him, Christian ethics should not be given. He should not be told, be meek and be humble. He should be told, you should expand. You should become great, master. According to him, humanity consists of two kinds of human beings. It's also another theory of his. Human beings consist of two types of human beings. Those who are born to be meek and humble, and those who are born to be masters. And therefore, you should have double morality. Morality to be given to those who are meek and humble, and they should always be given that because it is good for them. And there are others who are bound to be masters. In fact, if you examine the great theory of Nazism, which flourished under Hitler, was fundamentally this theory that those who are destined to rule the world, they must expand and they must dominate the world. That is their greatest satisfaction. And human beings who are meek and humble, they should obediently be humble and meek, and they should admit the superiority of those big men, and accept the humility of their own position and serve and subserve the masters. This was the fundamental motivation of Nazism during the Second World War. It was a powerful philosophy. Nietzsche was a great philosopher who influenced the entire German thought in his own time and developed into some of the leaders of Nazism this great feeling that they are born Superman. And they have to be Superman and they have to manifest. They have to dominate the whole world. And the whole world should come under the heels of this great Superman. That is the destiny of the individual, you might say. The individual should expand and expand as much as possible and yet remain individuals, egoistic individuals, ever expanding. Now, exactly the opposite is the view of the Advaita, according to which the individual has a frontal appearance which is false appearance. This falsity constitutes his individuality. There is no such thing as a small finite anywhere. All finitudes, either of the individual or even of the universe, even the boundless finite, all finitude is an illusion. Therefore, individual should be led to abolish his egoism, and what will remain by that abolition is a supreme inactive Brahman. Inactive Brahman is acosmic. There is no cosmos even, no individual even. It is acosmic. Every individual has to realize that his formation is false. The formation of the universe is false. He should so withdraw himself and become completely inactive. In that state of inactivity, what remains is the infinite. Not infinite in the sense of the cosmos, but that which is beyond all finitude, a complete inactivity, having no expansion whatsoever. The all essence, complete inactivity. This is exactly the opposite of this theory, of Nietzschean theory. In between is a third theory. And this third theory of the individual is the theory of reality of the individual, not as finite, which remains finite, but as a wave which is always joined with the ocean. A wave, not as a part of the ocean, but wave. When you see a wave, wave is never cut off from the ocean. So it is not a portion, not a cut-off portion. It is, a wave is a portion which is conjoined with the infinite all the time. To realize this reality is the aim of the individual. This is the third view of the destiny of the individual. Now this third view is a very difficult view to sustain. The first view is easier, the second view is easier, but the third view is more difficult. And it is that third view that is advocated by Aurobindo in the Life Divine. That the individual is not the ego. It is a center or a wave which is not ego because it's not something cut off. This theory is actually the theory most beautifully described in the Gita, where Sri Krishna says about the Jivatman, Mama eva anshaha sanatanaha. Jiva is sanatana, it is eternal. Mama eva anshaha, my own portion. Now what is my own portion? My own portion is a wave of the ocean, in which the wave is never cut off from the ocean. That is the meaning of Mama eva anshaha. Such is the nature of the individual. To attain this realization on the part of every individual, to discover his true connection with the Sanatana, the Supreme, that is the aim of the individual. Now this chapter, the destiny of the individual, is centered on this concept. What is it that every individual ultimately is supposed to be? Now, I have avoided reading this chapter because it's a very difficult chapter. And unless this chapter is read in conjunction with another chapter, which is second volume, chapter number 3, the eternal and the individual, where the logic of the relationship between the individual and the eternal has been explained. Unless this whole thing is read together, what is being conveyed here becomes very difficult. What I will do is simply to read one or two paragraphs from this chapter and speak of what is called the concept of the aim of the individual consisting of the liberation of the individual. In the Indian systems of yoga, we have the concept of moksha, the concept of mukti, concept of liberation of the individual. We are all told that human life, the highest purushartha, is the purushartha of moksha. And every individual is supposed to attain to that state of liberation. Now this state of liberation is conceived in various forms. The way in which this concept of liberation was conceived in the Veda was of one kind. The way in which it's conceived in the Upanishads is another. The way in which it's conceived in Buddhism is another. The way in which it is conceived in Jainism is another. The way in which it is conceived in Sankhya is still another. Again, there are differences even in the Vedanta. The state of liberation described in the Advaitic Mayavada is one state of description. In Vishishtadvaita, there is another description of the liberation of the individual. In Dvaita, there is another way of distinction which is also described. In Achintya Bheda Bhedavada is another distinction, the state of liberation is described. And this itself is a very vast subject. Liberation of the individual. We are all supposed to be looking for liberation. And yet Indian philosophy gives us